Inside the Neon-Infused Enigma of Nicolas winding Refn's contrasting characters and their 7 deadly sins. Soon after his low-budget Danish crime saga Pusher hit the market, there's been little doubt of this man's ability to paint a truly effective and realistic portraits of the underground world. Nowadays, the Pusher trilogy means as much to Scandinavian cinema as Pulp Fiction and Reservoir Dogs mean to Hollywood, and just as dialogue is the cornerstone of every 90s Tarantino movie, Nicolas winding Refn's cinema revolves around its flawed characters. As one watches the trilogy, giving us a peek at a day in the life of 3 everymen of Copenhagen's criminal underbelly, one is left with an exact blueprint of the origins of the vehemently colorful, fatalistic film noir of Drive. The vast majority of characters in Refn's films are represented by criminals and people who frequently succumb to their dark impulses, so it's no wonder that we often observe anti-heroes trying to survive in the most hostile environments, be it in the UK prison world or the LA fashion scene, and exposing their vulnerabilities and afflictions to our eyes through brutal flashes of violence, often paired with surreal, colorful palettes. Every Refn movie has a separate sin, or sins, placed at the very center of its machinery, and it's through those 7 deadly sins that the Danish filmmaker communicates with his audience. Pride and greed.
Du skylder mig penge, ja? Og de penge er ikke herinde, hva'? Ja? Jeg har et problem, ja?
In one of the many iconic scenes of The Sopranos, Tony's trusted consigliere, Sil, calls him out on his attitude, saying, "7 deadly sins, Tone, and yours is pride." We hear the same negative connotation of pride when Marcellus Wallace educates Butch in Pulp Fiction. Pride only hurts, it never helps. In the criminal ecosystem of bullying and given the distorted notion of respect, pride is the only currency that the entry-level thugs have in abundance, and everyone above them in the street hierarchy will gladly curb any influx of self-confidence displayed by those below them. And Pusher, which marked not only Refn's but also Mads Mikkelsen's film debut, is all about the very power struggle between the different levels of management within the Copenhagen drug scene. While all 3 Pusher series have different protagonists, all 3 of them have lots of things in common and show the same tendency of forcing themselves further and further out on thin ice, mostly because of their greed. Their insatiable hunger to gain an inch of power and authority or squeeze an extra gram out of the drug deal they have to push. Spoiler, just like in real life, it almost never ends well. Wrath and sloth.
My name's Charles Bronson. There's nothing wonky about my upbringing.
The animalistic, instinct-driven Bronson movie, which is Refn's adaptation in the personal life of UK's most violent prisoner, Charles Bronson, is, without a doubt, one of the angriest films you will ever see. Despite its theatrical frame and frequent fourth-wall-breaking interludes, Tom Hardy seems so immersed with the wrath of his character that it's hard to imagine how he managed to resurface from Bronson's destructive, self-destructive really, personality. And while we observe the adrenaline-pumping restlessness of Bronson, the contrast with the outside world and other UK characters is so sharp that you almost cheer for Charles to punish them for their sloth and complacency. The same way you might cheer for a predator in the savannah chasing down a careless zebra, and you know that that wish will certainly be granted when you are watching a Refn film. Envy, gluttony, and lust.
Some girls crack under the pressure. You're going to be great.
While Refn's 2016 Neon Demon is not quite about the gangster world and is mostly free of the masculine archetypes omnipresent in the majority of his other movies, the environment depicted there is no less sinister or disturbing, and certainly no less pessimistic. It's easy to decipher the film as a critique of the fashion industry, but it surely tries to touch on more subconscious, primal impulses of envy and grudges and how far they can be amplified in the dog-eat-dog competitive capitalist industries. The envious female conflict crescendos in a life-threatening hostility that the women carry out through the medium of their bodies in the world of oppressive beauty ideals and standards. Female beauty in Neon Demon is almost a consumable entity, and the final disturbing sequence, rendered as an amalgam of brutal domination and gluttony, directly responds to the violence inherent in the entertainment industry and, much like other scenes in the film, raises questions about the ways which young women become objectified and preyed upon in competitive industries. Noticeably, Jessie's success in the fashion world doesn't protect her at all, but rather makes her a more vulnerable target. Just as everyone's desire to possess Jessie is a blend of lust and jealousy, lust always accompanies other sins that provoke Refn's character's actions, just like the deep kiss that Ryan Gosling gives Irene, Carey Mulligan, in an elevator before crushing an assistant's skull in a bloody mess, Drive, or like the sadly hilarious scene where Tony tries to engage in sexual activity with 2 prostitutes, Pusher 2. Lust and sexual desire are always mixed with greed, hate, and anger, and very rarely love. As a true modern auteur, Refn communicates all those sins in his characters through highly stylized aesthetics, a palette of surreal, overwhelmingly saturated colors and high contrast that have long become his trademark. No wonder that the intensity of red, blue, and yellow is striking. These are the colors traditionally associated with anger, lust, and greed, and a way to explain the state of mind of his characters, who are dominated by those deadly sins. What's even more striking is that Refn has repeatedly stated that he is partially colorblind, lacking the ability to distinguish midtones, and that is why his movies always have such vivid contrasts and aggressive colors. There's hardly anything more deserving of reference in art than a person who is capable of taking his own imperfections and transforming them to something creatively distinct and admirable, and Nicolas Winding Refn has certainly managed to do that.
Right, that's enough! He's had enough! Get him out of here!